If you are excited for the Khabib vs Gaethje fight, then be sure to show this by smashing the like button. Welcome back everybody to Keenan K TV. In today's video, let's take a closer look at the Khabib Nurmagomedov vs Justin Gaethje fight, but mainly focus on the 5 reasons why Justin Gaethje could defeat Khabib. I have already made a video where I talked about the 5 reasons why Khabib wins, so be sure to check that one out in the description below. Before we begin, be sure to leave a like on this video and subscribe to my channel with the bell notification turned on. So with that being said, let's jump right into the video. Starting off with the first reason, what sets Justin Gaethje apart from the competition is his knockout ability. He is not particularly a one-punch knockout artist, but he is definitely one of, if not the heaviest fisted fighter in the entire division. Most of his knockouts are not flashy. Usually they end up with TKO victories. But looking at Khabib and his opponents, for the majority of them, he hasn't really faced many knockout artists. Aside from Conor McGregor, I am personally struggling to find a person who has the abilities that Justin Gaethje has in the knockout department. Gaethje has been continuously able to break his opponents down and finish them by the end of the fight. And so with that, he is a fighter that we cannot overlook whenever he tries to land on Khabib. Moving over to the second reason, his striking. When it comes to a fighter like Justin Gaethje, you have to respect every aspect of his game, but mainly pay attention to his striking game because that is where the most efficiency comes from. Justin Gaethje not only has tremendous boxing, but in my opinion, the best tool that he has are his leg kicks. Leg kicking in MMA is not made for everybody. Some fighters are just built differently. Their limbs are weaker, they don't really have that strong physical tank-like build, and they simply just can't go out and chop at somebody's leg. Justin Gaethje, however, has a very strong build, physically very strong, his legs are conditioned very well, and even if he were to land a kick wrongly, even if a kick were to get checked, he's physically so strong that he can just power through him. But now let's focus on when he is able to land. He has arguably the best leg kicks in the game. Now why is that? In my opinion, it is not so much so that his leg kicks are clean or snappy or just all around spectacular, like for example Edson Barboza. It comes more down to the fact that he is able to throw his leg kicks when the opponents are not expecting it, and he throws them in the smallest of ranges and still get the most force out of it. For example, his inside leg kicks. I mean, these kicks are so hard to pull off with the sting that he has that it just comes down to the fact that his anatomy, his body structure just complements that fighting style. Like I said, not everybody can fight like that. Edson Barboza, if he were to try and kick like Justin Gaethje, it wouldn't work. If Justin Gaethje tried to kick like Edson Barboza, it wouldn't work. So that is why this particular attribute and skill is so unique to Justin Gaethje. Now with that said, how will this be affecting the fight? Now as we know, Khabib Nurmagomedov in this contest will have the speed advantage in terms of footwork and hand speed, that I believe. So when it comes to Justin Gaethje, at least for the opening few minutes, few rounds perhaps, he will be facing a very mobile and agile Khabib Nurmagomedov. He will not be in front of Justin Gaethje. He will try his best to avoid Justin Gaethje and not participate in a chest-to-chest boxing contest where he not only can get hit with hooks, body shots, but mainly those leg kicks. So he wants to keep his range and look for his openings to shoot in for a takedown or a counter in the striking department, whatever it may be. But definitely you will not see Khabib engage with Justin Gaethje. So what can Justin Gaethje do to stop Khabib from being so mobile? Obviously the leg kicks. Now in terms of how Justin Gaethje is able to control distance, it all really comes down to the fact that it all starts by taking away mobility. In the first few rounds against Tony Ferguson, Justin Gaethje went ahead and went down low. He invested down low, and by the end of the fight, he had a very stationary Tony Ferguson in front of him, and he made the most out of it by then implementing his boxing. So in this matchup, in the beginning of the fight, you will most likely see a lot of investment from Justin Gaethje to the legs. And so by doing that, hopefully for him, he will have a less mobile Khabib Nurmagomedov, and from there, his boxing can start to lead in, right? He can start to sit down on his punches a little bit more and kind of walk back Khabib Nurmagomedov. From there, you will see that Khabib is not comfortable being bossed around because Khabib is always in control in his fights. That's how he likes to be in the stand-up and on the ground. He doesn't like to be bossed around. So being mobile is Khabib's only option. But if the leg kicks start to settle in and wear down Khabib, Justin Gaethje can start pressuring him, backing him up, and from there, as soon as desperation kicks in, Gaethje's experience, skill, power, everything will start to come into play. Because the way Justin Gaethje throws his shots, they're kind of round, kind of like Dustin Poirier, but with a lot of power, maybe perhaps with less speed. But definitely that power and those round shots will do their work in cutting off Khabib's side-to-side movement, which will enable Khabib to just stay in front of Justin and make him open for those inside leg kicks to where everything is being targeted from Justin Gaethje. So in that situation, it will be very hard for Khabib to get out of it. With that said, let's move over to our third reason. Justin Gaethje never really fights off of the back foot or really gets pressured backwards. He never takes a step backwards. So how will Khabib Nurmagomedov be able to force Justin Gaethje back? Now, in my opinion, the first thing that pops in my head is obviously if Justin Gaethje from the long range will try and kick Khabib, Khabib will try and catch the leg and drive him back. But the way Khabib boxes and has his posture, has his guard, it's very upright and is more so focused on attacks coming from above the hips. So for example, when Conor McGregor was teep kicking him, he pretty much was landing every single one of them. And so with Justin Gaethje, hitting an even lower target is probably going to be something that Khabib is most likely not going to be able to catch. That is my assumption. I don't believe that Khabib is going to be catching the majority of Justin Gaethje's leg kicks, especially in the manner that Justin throws him. He's very awkward and usually you don't see him coming. So with that said, and with Justin Gaethje's come forward and be in the middle of the octagon attitude, I highly doubt that Khabib will be pressuring back Gaethje. I would like to see how he can deal with Gaethje come fight night. That is something that I look forward to. But let's move over to number 4, improved pace. Back in the day when Justin Gaethje was just entering the UFC, he was known for going all out and being a highlight of the night. But this time around, with a few knockout defeats, he has calmed his fighting style a little bit down and he's able to control his momentum. He's very good at fighting in spots, fighting when he has to. He doesn't overthrow, he doesn't overuse his energy, which is very good because Khabib fights just the same way. Therefore, I believe that in this matchup, Justin Gaethje will be 5-round ready if it so happens that the pace just suits his fighting style and he doesn't get tossed around for 5 rounds. Speaking of being tossed around, let's go over to our final reason, his wrestling background. Now, is Justin Gaethje's wrestling background something that we can rely on offensively? Most definitely not, but defensively is where the entire importance lies. Now, in my opinion, as I said, Justin Gaethje being a very physically strong fighter and having that wrestling background, I believe that he will most likely be better off defending most of Khabib's takedowns than the majority of Khabib's opponents. Now, does that mean a lot? No, it really doesn't mean a lot, but it just means a little bit more than, for example, what it would have meant against Al Iaquinta, Michael Johnson, or Dustin Poirier. I believe all those guys don't really quite have the takedown defense like Justin Gaethje should have in terms of just looking at his accolades. Now, we haven't really seen anybody really confront Justin Gaethje in a pure wrestling manner. Yes, we have seen Justin Gaethje get taken down by, for example, Dustin Poirier, but that takedown was a very reflex-heavy takedown. So, for example, when Justin Gaethje was coming forward and throwing, he just caught him right on the perfect beat and took him down with a beautiful timing. When it comes to Khabib, I haven't really seen Khabib take anybody down just based on timing or reflexes on the back foot in a long while, if ever, really. Most of his takedowns come by chain wrestling, chaining up his momentum, pinning the opponent up against the fence, and then taking them down. That is usually how Khabib likes to do it all. So in terms of those reflex takedowns, I don't really see him happening. But at the same time, I don't see Justin Gaethje not being taken down. So with that said, this fight is very intriguing to me personally. I look forward to it come fight night. With that said, who do you think will win come fight night? Leave it all in the comment section down below, because in the end, it is only time that will tell the truth. For now, I've been Keenan from KeenanKTV, signing off. Later.